You clicked on Three French Hens, and this is by Margie, Palatini, and Richard Eglelski. On the third day of Christmas, a mademoiselle from Paris sent her true love 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. Oh, look, there they all go. But the hens never arrived. A holiday tale. In the unclaimed mail department of the New York City Post Office. Since the hens were mailed off during a Paris drizzle, the address on their package ended up smudged. Yes, not a word could be read, and somehow, some way, the ladies became, shall we say, misdirected. Alas, undeliverable. However, Colette, Paulette, and Fifi were not about to be left languishing as unclaimed mail when they had a true love to make happy. No, no. After all, this was Christmas, and they were French. Yet, as determined as any 3 French hens could be, how were they to find the Monsieur Philippe Renard? Of course, the phone book, proclaimed Colette. Paulette flipped and flapped through the page after page, and sadly, there was not a Philippe Renard to be found. All still looked lost, including the hens. And then, "This is New York, not Paris," exclaimed Fifi. "We must translate. It is not Philippe Renard, but Phil Fox, who we must see." And so the 3 French hens dusted themselves off, picked themselves up, and headed down into the subway in search of Mr. Phil Fox. Meanwhile, somewhere in New York City, down on his luck, Phil Fox was staring out his window with no view. He did not have a true love. He did not even have a friend, unless he counted the cockroach. Why, the poor fellow hadn't even a square meal in 1 month. These were lean times for Phil, very lean times. And as he watched the first snowflakes of the season fall, he made a wish. Phil looked over to the cockroach and shrugged. "Hey, my luck's just gotta change pretty soon, right? 'Tis the season." Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I wonder who's there. It's the French hens. "Bonjour, monsieur! Merry Christmas, Joyeux Noël, Monsieur Philippe Renard," sang out the 3 French hens. "We are Colette, Paulette, and Fifi, a present from your true love." Now, Phil knew all well and good he was not Philippe Renard. He was very sure he wasn't anyone's true love, and he barely knew a word of French. But Philip, or I should say Phil, was a clever enough fox to recognize a free meal when he saw one. 3 French hens on his doorstep? It was better than Chinese takeout. Well, 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 gulped Phil. "Pouvez-vous entrer?" asked the hens. "Entree, entree? Most definitely entree," he answered with a grin as his roast, fire, and sauteed through the door. Before Phil could get out his cookbook, Colette whisked the fox into the salle de bain, the bathtub. "Pour vous, for you, Monsieur Philippe," she clucked, showing him a tub filled with perfumed bubbles. A bath had been foreign to Phil in the past, but it was good enough for Philippe. Phil thought he'd give it a go. The water was warm and wonderful, the fragrance heavenly. Phil sniffed, he soaked, and he sighed. He knew there was no way he could have Colette for breakfast. Most certainly not after she'd given him a manicure, a new coiffure, and dressed him in such dandy new attire. He looked so swell, swank, and dare he say, debonair. Oh my goodness, look at him, he does look swell. The new natty Phil looked in the mirror. He looked at the beaming Colette. Phil sighed and smiled wistfully. He was definitely gonna have to skip breakfast. But when Paulette called from the other room, Foxy Phil was ready for lunch. Voila, Monsieur Philippe, declared Paulette with a flourish. Phil could not believe his eyes. His space was no longer shabby, but chic. And standing tall in the corner was the most beautiful twinkling tinseled tree. I am a wonder with the needle, thread, and evergreen, oui? Paulette said proudly. Yes, oui, oui, agreed Phil, as the tasteful hen ushered him into a big stuffed chair by the crackling fire. She plumped and puffed him a pillow, slid a tufflet under his slippery toes. Phil felt so warm, so comfy, so cozy, so not able to have Paulette for lunch, not even for hors d'oeuvres. However, though Phil may have felt toasty and looked swanky, his tummy was still cranky. When it began to grumble loudly, Phil's thoughts wandered to hen number 3. Oh yes, Mr. Fox was planning dinner for Fifi. Bon appetit, Monsieur Philippe, shouted Chef Fifi as she came through the swinging kitchen door. She held a tray high with canapés, croissants, hollandaise, and patates. She had salades, noirs, and bowls of Eglelski, parfaits, creme brulee, chocolate mousse, and charlotte russe. My goodness, that's a whole meal right there. Philippe sniffed, tasted, nibbled, and noshed. He looked at the 3 hens and the tower of French food and thought, who needs chicken? He delectedly wiped his chin with a monogram napkin. Now that's what he called a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. With style, too. Yes, Phil was very happy and full, and he was also feeling something else. And it wasn't indigestion. Phil was so filled with holiday spirit and a guilty conscience that he finally confessed. Ladies, I gotta get this off my chest. I'm not who you think I am. I'm a fake, cried Phil. A phony. Hey, I'm faux. I'm not even French. The hens huddled, clucked, and concluded, that does not matter. But I don't have a true love, continued Phil. Not even a friend. It's only me and the cockroach. I don't even get kissed under the mistletoe. That does not matter, said the 3 hens. Phil hung his head and gulped with guilt. You don't understand. I'm not Philippe Renard from Paris. I'm just plain old Phil Fox from the Bronx. That does not matter, the trio thrilled. We like you just the way you are. Notre amour, our friend, Phil. Friend? Phil felt a lump in his throat. Even the cockroach had a tear in his eye. Phil never thought he would have such fine friends, certainly not feathered ones. How could he ever repay their kindness? Then Phil looked under his twinkling tree. There were so many presents, too many for just one simple fox. What the heck, thought Phil, it's Christmas. He would share his good fortune and holiday cheer with his new friends. He handed Colette, Paulette, and Fifi 3 of his beautifully wrapped presents. The hens smiled, but shook their head. What's wrong? Asked Phil. Thank you, merci, dear friend Phil, said Fifi, but we cannot accept these gifts for Christmas. But why not? Asked bewildered Phil. Paulette smiled. Because our holiday is Hanukkah. We're kosher chickens. Phil grinned and gave a hearty hug to each. No matter, I say, happy holidays to us all. This could be a beginning of a beautiful friendship. And so the 3 French hens from Paris and Phil Fox from the Bronx celebrated the rest of the 12 days of Christmas and 8 nights of Hanukkah together. And they all had a wonderful time. It looks like they had a wonderful time. including the cockroach. The end. Well, I think that was a great story and talking about other holidays and how there's many different holidays around this time of the year. Don't forget to click around and see what else you can find.